So we're here today at Nelson Library because I'm excited to unveil the poem that I've written for my hometown. I think this has been a very important commission for me because it's allowed me to explore Nelson, not just in a physical way, but in a poetic way. I've been able to conjure up this poem, which I think represents our complex industrial history, as well as talking about the voice that Nelson still has. And I'm just happy to be able to give something back to my hometown in that way. It's called "This Town is an Old Hand-Me-Down Sweater." This fleece was hand-shorn by a sheep herder's hands, whose flock roamed these dreamy Lancashire lands. At Lancashire Mill, the process began, rolled into rovings, comb, carded and dyed, then spun into wool, the fibres cross-lengthwise. Sold at Nelson Market, £1 a ball or a penny a yard, with a deep regard grandma knitted ours from a single yarn. We all wore it and accepted it as ours, a hand-me-down sweater we each made our own. Insulating and warm, as snug as a home, as big as a town, a garment we could all grow around. We took it to every street and to the playground. It grew as we grew, like a boundary. We tested limits, pulled threads to the foundry. My father wore it to the sheet metal factory. My brother wore it to nights to Equinox, wild and free. My mother tore it to rags whilst cleaning the singer, and my sister danced and mimed to Spice Girls in front of the mirror. I wore it too, its sleeves around my waist like an embrace, or draped on my back, both arms over my shoulders like a cape, or scrunched on the ground, a goalpost at play, or a blanket on a warm summer's day. It was passed to friends and neighbours too, who wore it through winters and made it through. Yes, it was made to endure, layered with care and love, shared around this town like a little song, a harmony where every voice belonged. This is our sweater, frayed and bored with holes, elbows patched from scrapes and stitched at the seams, a tea-stained front mixed with whiskey and cream. But we've worn it well, to tatters and tears, to tallies and tales, we've got stories to tell. Still, we keep the threads as they unravel and restitch them new. A patchwork blanket of everyone we knew. So for those who stay and for those who travel, here's an old hand-me-down in the shades of Nelson town. Thank you. Thank you. I think subject matter comes in different ways. Sometimes it can just appear to you, sometimes it's through a conversation, sometimes it's through a commission, something like I've done with In-Situ today. It's, you know, they asked me to respond to a particular theme, which was how I love thee. And so I went into that idea of how do I really love Nelson, which came into ideas of connection towards Nelson and duty towards Nelson. And the duty that I have towards the area is almost like a familial duty. It feels like I not only belong here in a geographical sense, but in a sense of these places are mine, and the things that I do with these places matter. I wrote this little poem when I was looking at the town, and I wanted to dedicate something to not only myself, but to everybody that has been part of this town and that is part of this town. So this is called The Workers' Town. To the charcoal burners, the loom weavers and cloggers, not afraid to roll up their sleeves. To the wheelwrights, the sheet metal and foundry factory workers, not afraid to give their elbows some grease. To the narrowboat families, the lone skippers and the big boat dwellers, not afraid to wet their socks. To the refuse collectors, the early rising bakers and coal miners, not afraid to give their darkest hours. To the people of this town that matter, chatter, natter, mad as hatters, not afraid to give their all. We owe you every inch of this floor that you have spread out of our feet, and so we tread carefully. Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe every town needs a poet, just as every town needs an artist and a photographer and a documenter. And, you know, particularly writing a poem like this and being able to display it in Nelson Town Centre shows the real world impact that somebody like me, an individual, can have on the place that they live. So it's here on public display, and you know, I'm sure that anybody walking past it is going to tilt their head. And even if they don't come over to have a read of the whole poem, we have them little quotes that they're able to take with them and maybe think about, something to share, like a little song, just as the poem says.